Even after centuries of silence, the name of the Knights Templar still echoes like an ancient call, a living reminder that human power fades, but the search for truth never dies. They were hunted, betrayed, and burned, yet never forgotten. The ashes of their bodies became seeds scattered into the wind of history. And from those seeds, ideas, symbols, and brotherhoods were born, still carrying the resonance of their wisdom. Time tried to erase them, but their mystery only grew, feeding the curiosity and reverence of entire generations. The true legacy of the Templars is not made of gold castles or swords. It is built on knowledge, courage, and faith. Not the blind faith that obeys, but the enlightened faith that questions, that seeks to understand the divine through reason and light. They taught that man is not merely a servant of God, but his reflection, and that truth can be hidden, but never destroyed. Every symbol they left, every cross, every temple, every secret carved in stone, is a message to those who dare to see beyond illusion. Today, in a world filled with confusion and darkness, the Templars still remind us that there is a silent war being fought, not with weapons, but with ideas. And in that war, knowledge remains the sharpest blade. The immortal legacy of the Knights Templar is the awakening of human consciousness, the defense of what is sacred, truth, justice, and the faith that liberates rather than enslaves. For as long as there are men and women willing to seek what lies beyond the visible, the Templar spirit will never die. It is reborn in every generation that dares to question, that stands against ignorance, that rises in the name of wisdom. The Knights Templar were never truly defeated. They simply became invisible, eternal, alive in every soul that still believes light is stronger than fire. Call to action, English. If this journey through time and the mystery of the Knights Templar awakened something within you, don't let the flame end here. Every story like this is a reminder that truth, knowledge, and faith still walk among us, hidden between the lines of history, waiting for those brave enough to seek them. So if you believe the Templar legacy still lives, that the light of wisdom must never be silenced, show that you are part of this search. Leave your like so this message can reach more people. Subscribe to the channel to continue uncovering the mysteries the world tried to bury, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next revelation. Each new story is another piece of the puzzle, and you are part of this journey. Share this video with someone who also feels their heirs more beyond what the eyes can see, someone who, like the ancient Templars, seeks to understand what lies beyond the veil. And in the comments write, "The truth never dies." That will be the code phrase uniting all those who still believe that knowledge is the greatest treasure humanity can possess. When the last cries of the Knights Templar vanished in the flames of the Inquisition, it seemed the order had disappeared forever. But their echoes lingered, in symbols, in secret manuscripts, and in legends that refused to die. Many believed that the Templars' true power was not in their swords but in their silence. Before their executions, the masters of the order were said to have sent coded instructions to their loyal followers, scattering sacred documents and relics across Europe. Every fallen fortress hid something, a map, a seal, a word. The physical destruction of the order did not erase its essence. It merely drove it underground. After the execution of Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, something strange occurred. Witnesses claimed that as the flames consumed him, he raised his voice and cursed King Philip IV and Pope Clement XV, declaring that both would stand before God within the year. From that day, kings, nobles, and priests who dared to profane the Templar legacy met dark fates. France itself descended into war and chaos, as if the Templars' vengeance had crossed the boundaries of death and time. Yet the silence of the Templars was not born of vengeance, it was preservation. What they had uncovered beneath Solomon's temple could never fall into corrupt hands. Ancient chronicles suggest that a secret network of knights survived, guarding what they called the spiritual treasure, a collection of knowledge and relics capable of revealing what men now call the forbidden truth. And so, across generations, the oath was kept. Monks, masons, and scholars began to appear, bearing Templar symbols on rings, coins, and architecture. It was the rebirth of something that had never truly died. Today, as we walk through Europe's Gothic cathedrals or gaze upon monuments aligned perfectly with the stars, we realize that the silence of the Templars still speaks. It lives in every line, every proportion, every mysterious mark carved into stone. The order may have been destroyed, but its voice endures, hidden in secrecy, preserved in wisdom. For the power of the Knights Templar was never gold. It was the knowledge they chose to protect in silence. Centuries passed, yet the name of the Knights Templar never vanished. It survived the flames, the kings, and even the rewriting of history. While official chronicles sought to erase their memory, the Templar spirit seeped into unexpected places, into cathedral stones, secret traditions, and legends that flow like blood through the veins of humanity. Some believe the surviving Templars fled to Scotland, joining builders and architects who would later form the foundations of Freemasonry. Others claim they carried with them the true Holy Grail, not as a chalice but as a symbol of divine knowledge, the connection between God and man that the Church sought to control. The Templar legacy transcended borders, blending with different cultures and beliefs. Each civilization that inherited their symbols reinterpreted them in its own way, yet the core meaning remained, the pursuit of truth, even when forbidden. This inheritance crossed centuries, influencing kings, scientists, and visionaries. From medieval cathedrals to the illuminated manuscripts of the Renaissance, the Templar presence endured as a silent force, shaping human thought from behind the veil of history. In later centuries, numerous groups claimed Templar descent, many persecuted for it. Yet all shared one conviction: the Templars never disappeared. They transformed. They became an idea, an eternal flame inspiring those who refused to accept imposed truths. For them, to be a Templar is not to wear a red cross, but to carry the burden of knowledge and the duty to protect it. Today, the echo of the Templars lives on in the works that defy time. In every carved symbol there is a message. In every sacred design, a key. The true legacy of the Knights Templar is not a treasure of gold, but a spiritual map, a path leading to wisdom and the liberation from ignorance. Those who grasp that secret become part of the same invisible brotherhood that once raised swords for faith and knowledge, and still fights today, not with weapons, but with the light of forbidden truth. When the Knights Templar returned from the Holy Land, they carried more than memories of battles and sacred relics. They brought power, invisible, yet absolute. The wealth they had gathered during the Crusades, the gifts from grateful kings and nobles, and their control of entire trade routes turned the Templars into the world's first financial empire. They created what we would now call an international bank, managing fortunes and funding wars. Monarchs deposited their treasures under Templar protection, certain that not even hell itself could take them away. But with gold came something far more dangerous: influence. The Templars began lending money to kings and charging interest, a practice forbidden by the Church, but one no one dared to challenge. While they preached humility, they became masters of commerce, diplomacy, and war. Within their fortresses, they hoarded not only precious metals but information. They knew the secrets of kings, the strategies of battles, and even papal confessions. They became indispensable, and therefore feared. For whoever controls gold controls the world, and whoever understands the secret behind it controls the soul. This fusion of faith and fortune divided opinions. To the people, the Templars were God's chosen warriors, guardians of purity and order. To rulers, they were a silent threat, an empire within an empire. Each red cross on their cloaks symbolized the blood shed for Christ, but also the price of earthly power. It was the great paradox of the Templar order: saints with golden swords, monks in silver armor. At the height of their influence, they owned more land than any king in Europe. Their estates stretched from Scotland to the east, their caravans crossing seas and deserts under the same emblem, the Templar cross. But behind their prayers and hymns, one question grew louder in the halls of the Vatican and royal palaces alike. Was the gold of the Templars sacred or cursed? That question would mark the beginning of their downfall, for the same power that lifted them to glory would soon be used to destroy them. As the Knights Templar grew in power, the shadow they cast over Europe's thrones became unbearable. Kings and popes began to realize that the order, once created to serve faith, now answered to no one but itself. No army, Not even the popes could rival the Templars' structure and wealth. Their fortresses were impregnable, their communication network spanned continents, and, most dangerous of all, their secrets were untouchable. In a world ruled by faith and politics, knowing too much was a mortal sin. King Philip IV of France, known as Philip the Fair, was the first to feel the full weight of this threat. Drowning in debt to the Templars, he saw the order not only as his creditors, but as invisible enemies, men with the power to unmake kings without ever drawing a sword. Driven by greed and fear, Philip began to weave a silent plan to destroy the Templars from within. He knew he could not defeat them by force, so he would use the weapon of accusation. With the aid of his advisors and the hesitation of Pope Clement V, the king spread rumors of heresy, blasphemy, and demonic rituals within the order. It was said that the Templars spat on the cross, denied Christ, and worshipped a dark entity called Baphomet. The accusation was perfect. The people trembled, the church fell silent, and fear spread faster than any army. What was once reverence turned to hatred. In 1307, on a Friday the 13th that would forever scar history, Philip ordered the arrest of every Templar in France. That dawn, knights were dragged from their beds, chained, and thrown into the dungeons of the Inquisition. Under torture, many confessed to crimes they never committed, and the secret they had sworn to protect was buried with them. The fires consumed their bodies, but not the mystery. What could have terrified kings and popes so deeply? What truth was so dangerous that it forced the church to destroy its own warriors? The birth of the Knights Templar was not merely an act of faith, but a blood pact sealed in secrecy. In 1119, 9 French knights gathered among the ruins of Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. There, amid stones scarred by war and the silence of the desert, they made a vow that would change history forever. They promised to protect pilgrims, to serve God, and to fight without fear until their final breath. Yet there was something more in that vow, something unspoken, a promise made far from the eyes of kings and popes. It is said that on that night, as they swore loyalty to one another, they also swore to guard a secret unearthed beneath those very ruins. Over time, the name Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon became nothing more than a veil for something far greater. That small brotherhood grew, attracting nobles, warriors, and monks from across Europe. What began as devotion evolved into a vast network of power and knowledge, and with every new knight who took the oath, the sword he received symbolized not only his faith but his silence. It was a sacred code, whispered in torchlight ceremonies, spoken in words few dared to repeat. The Templars believed that blood spilled for God purified the soul, but they also believed that blood carried power. Before every battle, they would recite ancient prayers, chants woven from Latin, Hebrew, and symbols long lost to time. Many historians claim those words were merely rites of courage. Others, however, believe they were fragments of forbidden knowledge discovered beneath the temple, words capable of connecting man directly to the divine. That oath defined the very soul of the order, a union between faith and secrecy, between sword and wisdom. And as their blood soaked the sands of the Holy Land, their names became legend. Yet few knew that each Templar bore a hidden symbol engraved on his ring, a mark said to bind his spirit to the brotherhood beyond death itself. Thus was born the true strength of the Knights Templar, not merely warriors of Christ, but guardians of a pact that could never be broken. Beneath the sacred stones of Jerusalem, where the ancient Temple of Solomon once gleamed with gold and glory, the Knights Templar unearthed something that would forever change the destiny of their order. During their excavations, it is said they discovered hidden chambers sealed for millennia, filled with manuscripts and artifacts belonging to no known age. There, amid dust and silence, they found what old chronicles call the Light of Wisdom, an ancient knowledge said to have been granted by God to Solomon himself. The warrior monks believed they had been chosen to protect that secret and swore that it would never be revealed, not even under torture. The ancient writings spoke of spiritual forces, sacred geometry, and an energy capable of altering matter itself. To the Templars, it was not heresy, it was revelation. They understood that the true battle was not fought with swords, but with mastery of knowledge. From that moment, their mission changed. The Crusades became merely the facade of something far deeper, a quest to understand divine power on earth. Faith guided them, but the secret transformed them. And that transformation began to inspire fear among those in power. The Templars began to build churches and fortresses based on those sacred principles, aligned with constellations, marked by hidden symbols, and constructed with perfect proportions. Each stone, each arch, was a code. Many of those temples still stand today across Europe, silently guarding messages that time could not erase. The secret of the temple was not just what they found, but what they understood. That true power came not from the sword, but from the wisdom hidden between heaven and earth. But knowledge always comes with a price. As the Templars grew in wisdom and influence, the Church began to see them with suspicion. After all, what could a brotherhood of monks and soldiers know that even the Pope did not? That question ignited the first spark of a silent conflict that would one day turn into open persecution. And it all began there, beneath the soil of Jerusalem, where the sacred met the forbidden, and where the secret they swore to protect began to echo through eternity. Knights Templar, the forbidden truth behind their power. They say history remembers the victors, but what happens when the victors are erased by the very power they helped create? The story of the Knights Templar begins not in glory, but in shadows. A brotherhood born from faith, wealth, and blood, and in the 12th century, they rose as the most feared and respected order of warriors in Christendom, sworn to protect pilgrims on their journey to the Holy Land. But behind their noble vows, something else was taking form. A secret so powerful, it threatened both crown and church. Every legend begins with a purpose, and theirs was to serve God. Yet as the centuries unfolded, it became clear that what they truly served was something far greater and far more dangerous. In the heart of Jerusalem, amid the ruins of Solomon's temple, whispers spoke of a discovery, a hidden truth that could rewrite the foundation of Christianity itself. Those whispers spread like fire through the kingdoms of Europe, and with them, the Templars' influence grew, reaching kings, popes, and merchants alike. They became bankers of nations, protectors of secrets, and keepers of relics said to hold divine power. To the people, they were saints in armor. To their enemies, they were a shadow empire. And when shadows grow too long, light begins to fear them. The church that once blessed them began to tremble. The kings who owed them fortunes began to plot. And on one fateful dawn, Friday the 13th, the hammer of betrayal struck. The order was accused of heresy, their leaders tortured, and their brothers burned at the stake. But even as the flames consumed their flesh, their silence echoed louder than any confession. What were they protecting? What secret was so sacred they chose death over revelation? Tonight you will walk through the corridors of time to uncover the forbidden truth behind their power. The secret the Vatican tried to bury, the oaths that shaped nations, and the mystery that refuses to die. This is not just history. This is prophecy written in blood and silence. The Knights Templar were more than soldiers of God. They were architects of an empire beyond kings, and their legacy, whether holy or cursed, still commands the world from the shadows. For centuries, the Knights Templar have been shrouded in mystery, power, and contradiction. They were called holy warriors, servants of God, yet also heretics, conspirators, and guardians of secrets that could shake the foundations of Christianity itself. Founded in the 12th century during the Crusades, they began as humble warrior monks, sworn to protect pilgrims crossing the desert to the Holy Land. But no one could have imagined that this small brotherhood would become one of the most feared and wealthy powers of the entire Middle Ages. As their influence grew, so did their enemies. They amassed lands, gold, and authority beyond any kingdom's reach. Kings owed them fortunes, popes trusted them with secrets, and the people saw in them the living embodiment of faith and strength. Yet, as with all great powers, admiration soon turned to suspicion. What had the Templars truly found beneath the ruins of Solomon's temple? What hidden knowledge could turn monks into masters of kings? Over time, fear blended with reverence, and the name Templar became more than a title. It became a symbol of mystery, a power that answered to no earthly throne. And it is here that legend begins. Between faith and secrecy, between the cross and the sword. The truth about what they protected still echoes through the centuries, defying history and haunting all who dare to seek the forbidden. Today, in this video, you will be taken on a journey between fact and enigma, between what was written and what was erased. Uncover the forbidden truth behind the power of the Knights Templar. That will be the code phrase uniting all those who still believe that knowledge is the greatest treasure humanity can possess.